Hey everyone, super excited to bring you another incredible training from our Friday Connect training series. For those of you that are new to the channel, we host these every single Friday at 12 p.m. Eastern, completely for free. Now, if you're interested in joining one of these calls, just click the link that's in the top of the description. It's also in the pinned comment. That'll take you over to our Facebook group where you can see all the upcoming calls, all the upcoming topics, and even leave some suggestions for something you want to see us cover in the future. With all that being said, let's just get right into the training. Absolute rock star Don down in Tampa Bay, Florida. He's part of our group here at eXp Realty. He's been in the industry for many decades, and he's one of the best when it comes to for sale by owners and expired listings. He's trained our group before in the past. I'd love to, hear what he has to say today. So what we're going to do, we have a couple questions for Don. Me and Thermella, we're going to go back and forth. But before we do that, Don, can you just give a quick introduction for those that don't know you, a little bit about who you are and your experience in the industry?
Sure. Been in this business for about 20 years, a little bit longer. My wife has been in it longer than I. She's really the face to the real estate. Brought on my son and my daughter-in-law, Dennis and Jennifer, here about a year ago, and ramping everything up. So we have a small family team. We take care of Pinellas County, Florida, and the Tampa Bay, which is all part of it. So if you think of that peninsula, where the Tampa Bay is on the east and the Gulf of Mexico is on the west, that's where we kind of live, Central Florida, just opposite of Disney World. So we've been in this business. We've trained a lot of real estate agents. I used to be a business broker or a business trainer for Keller Williams. When new agents would come in, we'd sit and talk to them, figure out which direction for them to go, either get on a team or do it independently. We would walk them through their first transactions. So we've been into that kind of a format of it for a while. My wife, she's the former vice president of the Board of Realtors in Ohio. I sat on the grievance council. So we've been in the industry for quite some time. As far as the FSBOs and the expireds, it is the easiest way to ramp up a new person's business by far. We have something here with the Wolfpack to be able to do an additional layer over on the top of that, coupled with all of the things that we have that offers for EXP. And I got to tell you guys, if I'd have known this, just like everybody else says, we would have done it a lot sooner. So it's a great win-win for everybody. The stats are there. It's perfect for anybody who is new, trying to get involved, or people who've been doing this for years will want to kind of get their business to ramp back up. So we spent 15 years in Ohio. We covered 10% of an entire county as far as the volume of business that we did. We figured we just move our business from one place to the next, and we would just continue as usual. Surprise, it doesn't work that way. For our first year, we did one deal because we couldn't figure out this market. But we have since then, and we're loving it and enjoying it. So we're really glad that we're able to help. I am now also a certified mentor with EXP, and I'm able to help people along the way, get them going in the direction that is kind of the interpretation of their area. So not all areas are the same, and so that's a real key, important part of learning what you're doing, is knowing what types of home, what kind of competition's out there, what your level of experience is, and what you really need to do. But I got to tell you, I love FSBO marketing. It's the simplest way to understand this business, in the vernacular, understand the types of listings that are out there, listening to what people really want, and getting your information to the population that's out there the quickest way, and for you, a new agent especially, to learn this business and learn it in such a way you become very successful at it.
Thank you so much, Don. You know what? I'll start off with a question that, especially for newer agents who are going to be watching this, what are FSBOs? I know they stand for, of course, for sale by owner, and what are expired? So what is considered an expired, type of a lead?
Yeah. Okay. Very simple. Both of them are listing appointments. They're people who want to sell their home. An expired is someone who has tried to sell their home and wasn't successful with their current agent for one reason or another. It's typically always the agent's fault, is what you'll hear, but that's not necessarily true. But it could be the agent's lack of understanding of how to tell a homeowner how the market is. Some agents will list a home, especially what we've just gone through. We've gone through 7 years. If you knew how to sign your name on a contract, you can pretty much sell a home. We're coming into we consider a more normal market. In the last 7 years was the assumption that was normal, but it wasn't. It was stimulus. So now we're getting into that. So an expired is someone who had their home on the market for a while, typically 90 days. It fell out of the contract for the listing, and then now it's up for any other real estate agent to give them a call and say, listen, let me see what I can do for you. A FSBO is a for sale by owner. Another way to say it is a unrepresented seller. Okay. Instead of taking the FSBO term, just know it's just a seller who really wants to sell, who has the majority of them have a very limited knowledge. They may see something online, they may watch the market and, hey, I can do that. I don't need a real estate agent. I can save the fees. And that's what they're thinking. So, I mean, more power to them. I always applaud them for trying to sell their own home, but they don't necessarily want to use a real estate agent. They want to try it on their own until they get into it. And then 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks later, they're like, I give up. I've had enough of this. Maybe there's a better way. And a FSBO tries to sell it on their own to save commission, but they literally end up losing money. And then the stats go out to prove. And then the expireds want to sell it on their own because they know they don't want to hassle it for many different reasons. So that's the differences between them. They both want to sell. One wants to be represented right away. The other wants to try it on their own.
Awesome. No, that's a really good breakdown. And I think you really simplified it for people. And you talked about it being the easiest type of a lead. And so what factors, I guess, and what makes them different from a regular lead that we would call as a seller or a buyer that we would do regularly? Yeah.
Even though it may be a cold lead that you're going after, these are people who want to sell their home. So it is by far the easiest way. So I'm going to give you some stats. I'm just going to talk about FSBOs for a minute. Here's the breakdowns of it. And this isn't my stat. This is everybody in the industry that deal in this kind of market. 70% of every single for sale by owner, 70%, 7 out of 10 will end up listing their home within the next 30 days. Okay. Now just think about that as far as a business model. That's tremendous. Okay. So if you take that stat, then 70% of that 70%, or the people that you meet, will list their home with the first agent they meet. That's even a bigger slice of the pie for you. And then 50%, or half of all your appointments, will list with you if you do it correctly. So if you're doing the program right, and I have a program that shows people how to get 4 appointments a day, 3 days a week, 12 appointments, 6 listings a month. If you go out there and just do that for 1 week, and you're working with 12 of them, compound that times 12. Or let's say you want to get aggressive and you want to go on 12 appointments every week. Now multiply the 12 times 12 times 12. That's a lot of business you're doing. You just can't get people to pick that phone up because they have this fear of rejection, or this fear of I don't know what to say if they say something else. And that's where the scripts come in. But the stats are true. So where the FSBO will maybe take 2, 3, 4 weeks, and you keep following up, the major difference, and the numbers are still, high. The expired will relist their home in 72 hours. So If you get good at either one of those, you're going to make a good living. I know guys who just do this and they'll sell 100 homes a year. We don't need to sell 100 homes. So, we'll do 30 homes a year just in that market alone. And if you want to be busier, you'll get this down so well. If you want to be busier, you'll just get on the phone for another day. Once you understand how this works, once you understand what people are all of the same objections, and once you understand how to overcome that objection, the rest is just academic. It's just rinse and repeat. Remember, you're not going out to get a listing. You're going out to help someone. And once you understand that and they understand that, then you get this relationship that starts to build. And that's where the fun begins.
Wow. And that's incredible. And I think, in our industry, agents, when they come in, they don't truly understand these kind of approaches that they can, and strategies that they can follow. They're kind of all over the place trying to find, try to be on YouTube, try to do cold calling, try to do door knocking, and a little bit everything under the sun. So on an overarching level, on a high level, so what are some strategies that you found that was helpful in determining, and tools that you're using currently that allows you to get closer to FSBOs and expireds?
Okay. The number one issue that everybody has is, how do I contact them? Well, how do I get a hold of them? Okay. There's 2 rules of thumb. You can purchase leads, pop them in something like Mojo Sells or a caller that'll call for you, and just start calling. You can open up Zillow, and then you can just find a geographical area and pop in the word for sale by owner, and every single for sale by owner has the telephone on there. So those are the mechanics that you can use. If you don't have a dime in this business, it doesn't cost you a penny just to do the initial call. But prior to that, you really have to set yourself up with 2 things: really good scripts. And there's no secret to that. It's all the same conversation, no matter which script you use. So it's a really good script. The good script is the one that you actually end up using. That's really what it boils down to. And then follow up. Okay. So those are the 2 things. You need someone to partner with. You haven't done this on your own. I use Kevin Ward. Let's see. I use Brian. I've developed some scripts on my own. It just depends on. Jackie Kravitz has great scripts. You just need to understand and feel comfortable with it. They're going to give you the same objection every single time. You just need to be able to have a good listening skill, because obviously people are different. Some are more aggressive and A personality, some are more passive, willing to listen to you. Some don't like you at all and hang up the phone on you. But it's all about a numbers game. So the tools that I use personally, I use a program called Espresso, and I love it. I've been using it for 7 years. Every day it puts in my information that I need for my area. It takes the information out of my MLS, and it takes all the information for every social media application out there that somebody may advertise on for an expired. And I just open it up and start. It has a dialer, and I just start calling away. I don't have to go out and find it. And if you're going to spend $200 to $250 anyway, between buying scripts that are old, you might as well invest it in something like this that's relevant and the information is valid and it's been validated. But let's say you don't have any money. Y'all have Remind on your MLS. Okay, you may not realize that, but Remind is a tool that a lot of real estate agents never take advantage of. And Remind is a powerhouse that we all have because we pay for it in our MLS fees. So look that up, REMINE, Remind, and think of mining in a gold, mine and pulling information out. It lists the seller of the property. If they have anything out there on social media, it'll list their contact information, phone numbers. It'll list their email addresses. It lists everything, and it's that quick. You just need to set it up the day before, and get ready for your calling that day. So, but yeah, those are the tools that people need. Some sort of calling system if they want to, or they can dial it on their phone. A list of numbers to call, and then contact people who are selling their home.
Awesome. No, thank you. Those are really helpful. And I know Kyle's going to get into more of the nuances of the cold calling in the script, but on an overarching level, like how do you communicate with them in a way that they respond to you right away and they give you that moment to speak? I know the hardest thing about meeting FSBOs and expireds halfway to say, hey, I am that agent. I think I can help you, especially with FSBO. They're not even entertaining you first, right? That's why they wanted to list their home on their own. So how do you get into that space that they even hear you without getting too much into the nitty gritty? Because I know Kyle's going to ask you a little bit of that.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just real quick. You're never selling on the phone. Your phone work is for one purpose only, and only this. It's to set an appointment. That's it. You don't sell them who you are, that you're better than sliced bread. You don't tell them the other guy's a jerk. You don't tell them that they can't do it on their own. And you'll hear this. You'll hear this a lot. They will tell you, oh my word, you're like the 27th agent who called, and man, how come you guys are so rude out there? And literally agents are on the phone being their worst enemy, saying, well, look, I know I can get you a lot more, and you're stupid for trying to do it on your own. That's literally what some agents tell these people. So don't do that. Okay. So, but you're not trying to sell it. You're only trying to get an appointment. That's the goal. Once you get the appointment is where the magic comes in.
And when it comes to cold calling or even approaching conversations with people, there's a lot of it is a mindset game. Where did you allow yourself to be? I know this is a new question that I'm throwing in here is in terms of communication. How did you get to this point where I'm, all or nothing, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to start that conversation.
Well, it's the training. So the scripts break down in kind of three categories. And the reason they do, it's about the season we're in. Remember, we're not the makers of the market. We, as real estate agents, we're only interpreters of it. And we can only have a small window, maybe 3 months out. That is what we can see. I mean, we don't sit on, Congress, and we don't pass laws. And I mean, but we have enough intelligence and enough tools and resources. We have lenders to talk to about, hey, where do interest rates may be going? So we're kind of the interpreters of what's happening just in our area. Does that make sense? Okay. So if you start with that, and then you go in with the approach that, hey, Kyle, I don't see that you're selling your home on your own. I just like to know how I can help. Or, hey, I know you've been inundated with a bunch of telephone calls. Trust me, I think it's a sport out here, but I'm not here to sell your home. I'm not here to list your home. I'm here to help you. Okay. So if you go in with this approach, you're going to get someone who's going to talk to you. Because then they're going to say, oh my word, I have been inundated, or my word, I have had a lot of, people call and say they can do X, Y, and Z for me. So it really depends on that type of approach that you want by this season we're in. Now we're going into a season that I don't want to put a negative term or a crass term, but catching fish in a barrel kind of a imagery but listen, the only thing that a FSBO knows how to do is what? Lower the price. That's it. And they see panic selling going on. Get them to stop doing that. Tell them, whoa, there's a better way. I can show you. Let's get together so we can make you more money than you just keep giving it away. Because they don't know any difference. They're not the expert. We are. We have the tools, talent, resources to be able to show them the stats. So with that, that's kind of, answers that question.
Yeah, I think a lot of the time for us when we're approaching these people, know what you're good at, know what what resources you have available. How are you going to take, because they'll question you on that. So how are you going to do better? Make sure you know exactly how you can help them in that event that conversation comes up. So I'm really glad that you touched on about having the tools, resources, and the expertise
Sure.
to be able to help them. And I know you mentioned this already in terms of why you focus on expireds and FSBOs. Is this something your focus has been, is your sole focus, or do you do any other lead generation ideas?
Oh, we do everything. My son, he's just now crafted an entire network of, of lead follow-up system that he's just enjoying, and people are calling him back. I mean, he's just having a blast with it. He's also did for, I don't know, months. He's probably would write 10 contracts a week just for, people who are wanting to buy investment properties. So the reason I talk about FSBOs and expireds is because they're hanging fruit. They are. And I use this tool to train real estate agents to understand the language they need to start developing. Because, I've said this and I'll say it over and over again, there's nothing new. They're not going to give you anything more. You'll hear it. If you call 30 people and contact 10 people, you're going to hear that same objection 10 times. So just get good at that, but as far as what we do, Facebook, I even do TikTok.
Yeah.
I do TikTok, you believe that? And so we just have a lot of fun with it.
Yeah, and you guys are on YouTube, and you guys even put out signs and things too, and ads. So now you do a lot of things.
We do, yeah.
I'm glad that I don't have to talk anymore. I'm going to pass it on over to Kyle. I know he has a bunch of questions he wants to ask you. Sure. So go ahead.
Yeah, thanks.
That's been great so far. Lots of great information. So a couple more questions that I have for you. We're gonna get into some very tactical stuff here. First of all, we talked a little bit about scripts when you were talking with Dharmela. And what would you say is sort of your angle or your approach when you're using a script? And do you recommend that anybody that's going to be cold calling is always using a script when they are calling?
Oh, always. Listen, I've been doing this 20 years. I'm gonna reach over here. I put this in front of me. I memorize this stuff backwards and forwards. I can quote this all day long, but I still put it in front of me. And the reason I put it in front of me is because I want to keep myself on track. I can go off on long conversations. People want to talk. Once they get to know that you're not the enemy, they'll tell you their life story. They really will, but you got to stay on track because you got a goal here to meet, So yeah, here's the routine. If you're first starting out this, you want to stand up. You actually want to physically stand up. There's an energy in standing up. Okay. You want to have a mirror in front of you. Okay. So you can actually see yourself smile. If you're not smiling, if you can't see yourself smiling, that comes across in that conversation. So, and then I would post the script and every objection on the wall so I can just reference it as they're talking. See, everybody uses scripts every day. You just don't realize it. Here's a good script. Okay. Honey, where do you want to go to dinner? Well, I don't know. Where do you want to go to dinner? Okay. And you know that argument already in your head, how to get what you want out of that, you see? But that's a script. And you've just developed it so long and so well that you don't think of it as one. But that's a script, just like scripts for the conversations for the phones.
Absolutely. And I think that just, what you said in the beginning about, just developing a lot of great skill sets by making these cold calls, being able to have these dialogues with different sellers is going to help you, whether you're cold calling or if you're even in a listing appointment in general. So that's huge. You're doing a listing appointment, you probably have a script, even if it's not word for word, but it's a structure to follow, right? Now,
yeah, Kyle, I take the script on a listing appointment, I take it with me. I actually set it down in front of me. It's, people are thinking, this is such a foreign thing, but when you go to a doctor's office, did they talk to you without a computer in their hands now? No. If you ever gone to a lawyer's constantly got a yellow pad in front of him if he doesn't have his laptop. You're constantly taking notes. So why aren't you that professional? I walk in with my script, and I have a script for the listing, okay? And I just tell them, hey, I'm going to reference some notes here as we go down and talk about it. And they can see it. I'm just going through, and this is my next question right here. Don't think a script is a handicap. A script gets you from point A to point B. It makes sense to them because the way they're written is to get them to say yes to you at the closing, because you're going to be their best friend, their benefit, the person that's going to work for them the hardest. So don't think scripts are negative. Embrace them. Bring them with you.
Great. Very, very insightful there. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask you is, when you're making a lot of different calls, if you're talking to a lot of different potential sellers, how do you actually follow up with these people? Because I'm sure not everyone is ready to make an appointment with you the first time that you call them. What are your best strategies to keep in touch? And then when they are ready, you're the one that they're actually going to be reaching out to.
Okay, great. We have that down, especially because we have KV Core, which makes it pretty easy. The first initial call, and I'll just tell you how I function this. I put 30 telephone numbers in my dialer, okay? And the reason I use a dial, it's not a robo dial. It doesn't just keep calling. You have to activate it. You do a little research. I just don't have to keep punching the number in, that's all. So I put 30 numbers in to be able to connect to 10 people, to be able to get 4 appointments. That's kind of my routine. That's just been proven out. Sometimes you'll get 1 appointment, sometimes you'll get 6 appointments, but it averages out about 4 appointments per day every time you do this. So when you have that, and when you're, give me the part of that question again. I'm sorry, I prefaced that.
Yeah, I was just asking about the follow-up method. So when you first call them, how can you make sure they're calling you when they're ready to sell?
So what you do is there's a 7-part series that I have. Again, there's a lot of different ones, but this is the one that I use. So the first initial meeting is 1. Okay, that's your first contact. You're not going in there with a listing. Now listen, people will want to list right away. Don't miss that opportunity. Go prepared to list. But your job, depending on how you're setting this up, is you're there to help. Hey, let me take a look at the property. Don't ever say, hey, I'm looking at the property for my buyer who's, and surveying it if you don't have a buyer. If you don't have a buyer, you're just lying to the guy, okay? So don't do that. There's plenty of times that you can go in and talk to these folks. So the script sets you up to get you in the home and meet this person. Then you get to see the home, okay? So as you get to see the home and you're looking around, you're going to leave them with something. I leave them with what's called 7 security tips, okay? Or 9, excuse me, it's 9 security tips. Here's what not to do when you try to sell your home. Don't set an appointment by itself. Make sure if you're doing an open house, you got somebody with you. If people walk out of the car with a bunch of cups in their hand, make sure they have Cokes in them, because if they're empty, they're going to walk out of your home with stuff. Make sure you get the license plates. I mean, it's all of these issues that they don't even think about, okay? Then you make another appointment by doing this. I appreciate you showing me the house, Kyle, but let me leave you with this right here. And are you, by the way, going to be doing an open house on the weekend? Great. I want to come by before that, and then I want to give you the property inspection report. It looks like you may not have that. So that's your second appointment. So every time you're making an appointment. Now today, obviously, you have the internet, you can email them, but every Monday morning you're calling these folks. How did it go? Is there a contract I can help you, review? What did you think about the visitors that you had? Every Monday you're giving them something new. Oh, by the way, I have a checklist, a 65-point checklist to make sure your home is ready to sell when you get that buyer. Boom. So you're just trying to make them constantly in contact with them. Sometimes you can do an open house for them. Sometimes you can do a video for them or make new photos for them. The point is this: if statistically 70% of those people are going to list, and they are, okay, give them what it takes for when they say, I quit, they remember you. So that's the follow-up method. The other follow-up methods is send them a postcard, like them on Facebook, understand that they're constantly seeing you, make sure that they get something in the mail from you within that time frame. And by all means, if they're close, go see them and drop something else off again. So I have a series of 7 different things to give them.
That's awesome. I love that concept of just providing them with so much value that when they're ready to actually make a decision, if they compare to what all the other agents did, which in most cases, like you mentioned earlier, it's just saying, hey, let me list your house. Hey, let me list your house. And then you provide them with all of these resources and all these tips. I think it's pretty clear who they're going to want to work with, right?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, think about it. When we do recruiting for EXP, what's the stats? How many people are actually going out there recruiting? It's 15%.
Yeah.
Did you know that? 15% of all the EXP agents are the other ones actively recruiting. Well, it's the same thing with the follow-up. It's less than that. It may be 5% of everybody who called gives them only one more call.
Yeah. Now, the next thing I wanted to go into here are, just some common objections. So we'll start with the for sale by owners. What are some of the most common objections that you get, and what are your tips for handling them? Because I know a lot of times, once you get past the first 30, 45 seconds, that's where they really hit you with the most. And then you could get into those situations like you were talking about earlier, where they open up and tell you their whole life story once you get past that first barrier. So what would you say are the most common that you experience for sale by owners?
Well, again, I'm a little bit different. I'm not selling them on the phone. I'm just setting an appointment. That's it. So I'm gonna give you one script that when the market was fast and everything was selling within 30 minutes, this is the script I use, and that would always get me the appointment. So this is a modified script from somebody else. I've kind of put some spins on it. So I'll just kind of do it with you so you can get a real quick idea. And this is just appointment setting. Hi, is this Kyle?
Yep, this is Kyle.
Hi, Kyle. This is Don Henderson. I'm with EXP. Now, don't worry. I'm not another realtor calling you just to try to list your home with me. So you can take a breath on that one, okay?
Okay.
Right away, you're completely different, because everybody else says, hey, let me come over and list the home. Says, and this is just to get their mindset going in the direction you want to be able to talk with them. So now, Kyle, is the home sold or is it still up for sale?
Yeah, it's still for sale.
Okay. And I see that you're asking 550. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay. And then it looks like it's a 3-bedroom.
Yep. 3-bed.
Okay. And it's a 2-bathroom, right?
Yeah. 2-bath.
Okay. You see what you just did? You gave me 5 yeses just now.
Yeah.
Your mind can't move away from that. You're now in a positive mode to talk to me. We laughed a little bit, we got some positive feedback. Now I got a question for you. If I was to bring a qualified buyer, would you be willing to work with an agent? I mean, kind of pay him some sort of finder's fee?
Yeah, I'd be willing to do that.
Okay, great. Notice I didn't ask you for commission, right? Okay. Yeah. So now here's the crux of this one. This kind of gives you an idea where their level is. Says, so if I did have that buyer, should I just send them your way? I mean, do you want to work with them directly?
No, probably not.
See, some people will say, yeah, I've done this 100 times, or
Yeah.
they'll go just like you. Well, wait a minute, don't you bring them by? Yeah, not a problem. I just wanted to see where, what you were comfortable with. I work with a lot of people who sell their own home. And so I'll just assume, though, that you have everything ready. You got the title company, you have the inspector, you have the attorney, you have all the contracts and all the disclosures. All that's ready to go, correct?
I have some of that, yeah.
See, that's the answer you get all the time.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I know a title company. And all of a sudden you're putting in their mind, ooh, what the heck am I getting myself into?
Yeah.
So once they get through that, then you just say, now, I work with a team of agents, or I'm the agent in the area. You just kind of, whatever it is. And I just need to stop by and tell any of my potential buyers what the home looks like. Listen, it takes me about 5 minutes. I have a couple appointments this week already. So what about Thursday at 2 or Friday at 1? Which one works best for you? And then you set the appointment and go on. So that's it. That's what you're trying to do. You're just trying to introduce yourself. You're not trying to bombard them with anything. So my approach for sale by owners is this. I don't care if I ever list your house or not, Kyle. If you allow me to do a little bit of advertisement with your house, I'm going to get buyers off of that. See, that's what a lot of agents don't realize. They can advertise a FSBO, okay? They can put a little post out there, help them try to sell it, and all of a sudden now you start getting telephone calls. Hey, here's an off-market property that you may be interested in. We all sell off-market properties, every one of us. We just never think about listing them, okay? Never think about advertising them. So take advantage of that. I may I'll give you an idea. I had a guy went out and did a little video for him, $600,000 condo out in Clearwater. Got 2 buyers off it. One says, "Yeah, I really don't like that condo. Can you help me buy another one?" We sold him another one down the street, $680,000. So, and I never did list that one, you see. But take advantage of it. So don't just think, "Hey, I'm only going to go out there if you're going to list it with me," because you're missing out on a lot.
Yeah, I love that. I love that concept. You know, it doesn't have to be the actual person who you called that you end up selling their home and getting commission. You can find buyers and start to develop more relationships. And even I know that a lot of people, even advertising listings, they get other sellers looking to sell because they see what you're doing to sell that property. They want the same for their home. So it really hits all the angles, which
it does.
Fantastic.
It does. Yeah. I have, even on my YouTube channel, I have off-market properties. I do videos for them, I let them share the video. I give them the link to share it. What's that doing for us? That's getting eyeballs back on our channel. You see? So there's so much to take advantage of, but we get so narrow focused because there's an old school style of teaching that says, don't waste your time unless they're going to go out there and list it with you. But what about all the side business that you could do with that? It's tremendous.
Absolutely. And I love the approach of, sort of confronting the objections before they even come, because they're probably going to say, "Hey, look, I don't want to list my house. 100 people already called me." But literally the first thing you say is exactly, "You're not doing that." And it completely disarms them, puts their guard down. And then that's when you can have these good conversations.
That's exactly what happened. They go, "Oh, thank God." A lot of them say that. "Oh, thank God. You know how many people I've asked to come over and list my house? Jeez, I'm not listing my house."
Yeah, exactly. So that was
now,
great.
When you're there, that's a different conversation. When you're there, that's another script, so.
Mm-hmm. Now, the other question I had for you, so that was some great, sort of objection handling or avoiding objections entirely for sale by owners. What about on the expired side? Because these guys have already worked with an agent before, haven't been successful, but as you mentioned, a lot of them are actually still looking to sell. So what are some of the most common objections you find with expireds, and how would you typically handle that?
What will you do differently? That's what you got to get over. What will you do differently? Well, I don't know. I got to see the home. Well, you see it online. I understand that, but pictures, are good or they're bad depending on who's taking the picture. But let me ask you, would you like me to tell the story about your property? Because we'll do it in a narrative form. I don't just do pictures, we do videos, but I really need to come over and take a look at that. How's Thursday? You can literally, statistics prove out, you could pick up the phone and get 100 expired and call them all and just say, "I'm the best thing on the market. Let me come over and list your property." And you're going to get someone who's going to say yes. Okay. But the objections that they have is, my other real estate agent, he kind of, didn't do what he was supposed to. It's always the real estate agent's fault if it didn't sell. And I say that tongue in cheek, but sometimes they do understand. I'll give you a case in point. I had a caller. They thought I was the brokerage here because we do such advertisement. I think we're the full pages of Google out here. And so they called up and they said, "Hey, we want to have someone else list our home." And I said, "Well, is it currently listed?" And we went through all of that. And I realized the reason, this home wasn't selling. It was marketed terribly. We're professionals at marketing now, especially in our group. If we're not marketing properly, it's your fault. It's not anybody else's fault. We have the tools and we have the teaching through the Wolfpack to be able to market homes in a fantastic light. So you take that and show them what you're doing. So long story short, they had it on the market for 3 months. We got it within about 4 days, we had it in contract. So, and the difference is knowing and understanding how you're marketing in the season we're in. Now, that's really important, Kyle. With all that we're saying, knowing the season, what are we going into? How are we going to talk to a FSBO? How are we going to talk to an expired in this season when the market seems like it's crashing, when the interest rates are now close to 8%, 7 if your credit's good, 8 if it's not. So what are you going to do? How are you going to be able to tell them that these people can afford it? Well, you have to, take that information and understand the history. I mean, when I bought a home, it was 18%. So people buy homes no matter what the interest rate is. So, and just give them the understanding, well, we lost this group of buyers, but we can appeal to this group of buyers. And then we just go out and target market those folks. So what do you say to them? You say, let me take a look at your home so I can see. It only takes me about 15 minutes to figure out what happened. And then you, at that point, will make a decision whether you and I want to work together. Because, Kyle, you're not going to do anything that doesn't make sense, correct?
Of course not.
Okay, I'll see you on Thursday. So that's the idea.
Yeah, I love that. Now, one last question, just piggybacking off the expired side of things. What would you say is the most common things you discover why the properties aren't selling when you actually go and check out the property? What was the agent usually not doing that was causing the property not to sell?
Well, it's two things. It's the understanding of what the need is of the seller. Their motivation may be something completely different. And if you haven't discovered that, then you're not going to be able to guide them along in this process. You're going to think it's just, well, you got to fix this, or you got to clean this, or you got to paint this. I mean, agents will give all kinds of excuses why they're not doing the job. You got to own that. If it falls out of contract, you have to own it. If it doesn't work right, you have to own it. You have to know that you're responsible for that. That's your job, to get that home sold. Now, if you have an unreasonable seller, someone who says, I don't care, come hell or high water, I'm going to sell it $100,000 over market, well, then there's nothing you can do, and you just need to get out of that. So typically it's the conversation of the motivation of the seller that is missing for the majority of the times. So we sit down and talk a lot. When do you want to be out? How soon or how long do you need to be here? Do you need any time here to pack and move? Where do you want to move to logistically? I don't want you to be homeless. Do you have some place to live if it sells fast? What if it sells slow? Do you need that money to move forward? Maybe you can do a bridge loan to get that next house. There's a lot, of information that we can impart to them. Selling the home is the easy part. Making sure that you're selling it on their terms with their understanding within the market is the relationship that you need to develop with them as far as the communication.
Awesome. Yeah, it sounds very important, just to make sure you set the right expectations when you first talk to them and understand where they want to go, where they actually want to be, and how long, so you can appropriately market the property.
Yeah, because if somebody wants to sit on a market for 9 months or 6 months or 3 months, totally different than if they want to get out in the next 30 days.
Of course.
Yeah.
So we got one last question for you, Don, before we wrap up here. Just what would you say is your biggest piece of advice, your top tips for agents that, whether they're new agents or they just never really ventured into this cold calling, expireds, or for sale by owners, what would you say are your top tips for success in this type of lead generation?
Okay. Everybody who does this properly realizes how simple it is. Everybody who does this poorly thinks it's the most difficult thing in the world. You're not afraid of talking to people on the phone. You're afraid of being stumped with the questions that they may ask. So get your butt in a group that you can practice this, that you can banter back and forth. Get together with a group of people that will teach you and critique and kind of train you on what to say and when to say it. Get on YouTube if you don't want to have it live, and study that. But once you study it, you still have to do it live. You still have to practice it. And just know this, you're going to make mistakes. So let yourself make mistakes. It's the only way some people are going to learn. My grandfather used to say it this way: experience is a dear lesson, but a fool never learns any other way. So in other words, go out and learn by someone else who's already done it. There's plenty of videos out there for people that watch to do live calls. On Monday, I kind of give you an idea. On Monday at 4:00, I hold a live YouTube calling, and we have people from all over the United States. They dial in. We set up our scripts. We set up our dialer. and they're doing it live. And what ends up happening is we do it round robin sometimes. Sometimes we do it where everybody mutes and they're calling. You see them calling. If they have a question, they unmute themselves so everybody can hear the conversation. And then somebody's typing in or put into the chat, hey, we'll ask them this or do this. You know, I mean, there's all kinds of availability out there to help agents. But my point is, don't be afraid to call. Understand they have to have your help. They need your help, especially the market we're going in when everything seems to be crashing down, when everything seems to be, the only answer is to lower their price. They want you to call them. So go out there and help them, okay? Don't be afraid. But if you're afraid that you're not going to know what to say, you're not, unless you practice it.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope you learned something useful. If you're interested in partnering with our record-breaking organization, the Wolfpack, here at eXp Realty, completely for free, just click the link that's in the pinned comment. We can set up a time to talk, and we can see whether or not we'd be a good fit for each other. If you're new to the channel, do me a favor, click the like button down below, and make sure to subscribe. We're going to be posting videos like this on the channel every single week. And be sure to join the Facebook page. The link is in the top of the description. It's also in the pinned comment. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.